This is like the third time I'm recording this video. I don't know, pacing's just a little bit off and the audio quality was very bad. So it's been 2 weeks since I've last posted on this channel, and where the hell have I been? It was the last week of my college year, so I had to prepare for exams, then take the exams. Then after that, I went on a vacation for a week, but now we're back. This is a little bit different from what I've been posting, but I would say that there are three sports that I am very passionate about. One is basketball, two is football, and three is probably F1. With the Premier League starting in a couple of days, I said, why not throw my hat into it? And I've been meaning to get a lot more into FPL, Fantasy Premier League. I think my peak was 500k, which was 2 seasons ago. So doing predictions only helps my research into the Premier League season and getting to know the teams that are coming into this season. So yeah, let's get into it. In 20th, I have Bournemouth. I don't think that they will have a very good season. Their defense, looking at that defense, I don't see anything that catches my eye. Dominic Solanke had a good season in the championship. Time will tell if he will translate into the Premier League. They have some good talents on the wings like Jaden Anthony and Marcus Tavernier. But other than that, I don't see this Bournemouth team doing very well. They haven't done much in the transfer window, and I think they're lacking a lot of depth. Scott Parker is an okay manager, but I think this is a second relegation for them. 20th for Bournemouth. 19th, Fulham. Of course, Fulham won the championship last season in very emphatic fashion, and Mitrovic did score a lot of goals in the championship, above 30, I think it was. Actually, 43 on the second time of looking at it, which is the record for the championship, but we'll see if that will translate in the Premier League. In previous stints, it hasn't really gone well for Fulham. They did make some good signings in Xiao and Mbabu, but again, the same with what I said with Bournemouth. I think their defense is lacking. I don't think they can rely on Tim Ream and Tosin Adarbayo at this level. Bernd Leno is a very good goalkeeper, but I don't think that it will be enough to keep them in the division. And another thing is that their manager Marco Silva has doesn't really have the greatest track record in the Premier League. Some other interesting signings include Andreas Pereira from Man United and Solomon from Shakhtar. Some of the players that are left in the promotion side, like Ivan Caballero and Harry Wilson, are pretty good, but I don't think that Fulham will stay in the Premier League for next season. They are still a yo-yo club for me. I'm sorry. 19th for Fulham. 18th. And I'm going big for this one. Everton. Everton, I don't really see anything special with their squad. Of course, with the loss of Richarlison, that's a big negative in the squad. That Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still here, but I think that supply line that feeds him the chances that he needs in order to score goals is a little bit depleted. They still have Dele Alli. They signed Dwight McNeil, who's an okay replacement, but he isn't half the player of what Richarlison was for Everton. The thing that is going for Everton is that they're a very experienced squad. Of course, they still have Alan. James Tarkovsky has come in from Burnley, who's a very good center back. Players like Iwobi, Seamus Coleman, Doucouré, there's a lot of experience here. Michael Keane and Jordan Pickford are a very good defensive duo. Frank Lampard is an okay manager, but I just don't think that Everton have got it in them in order to stay in the division. Maybe I will flip flop between the 17th place team that I have, but for now, I'm predicting Everton to go down, mainly due to their lacking attack. And if Dominic Calvert-Lewin does go down with an injury, Rondon is their only replacement, which not good. 17th, Southampton. This is the complete opposite of Everton in that they have experience. This team is very young, and it does reflect on their signings, who are mostly under 23. Some of them include Seko Mara from Bordeaux, Gavin Bazuno, the goalkeeper, Bella Kotchap from the Bundesliga. And then the star signing of the season is Joe Aribo from Rangers, who just scored a very amazing solo goal the other day or the other week. There is a lot of talent in this team in Salisu, James Ward-Prowse, Livramento, Che Adams, Adam Armstrong, but the biggest knock on Southampton is their manager, Ralph Hasenhuttl. I think he tries a lot of out of the box things, and a lot of the times it doesn't really work. In my humble opinion, I think he will be sacked this season. So Southampton will brush with relegation and finish in 17th. 16th, the last of the promoted teams, Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest have lost two of their star men from their promotion season last season, in Fabio Carvalho, who went to Liverpool, and Jed Spence, who's at Tottenham now. Um, but they have spent a lot of money in order to try to stay in the Premier League and replace some of their key players. We have Omar Richards from Bayern, Orel Mangala from Stuttgart, Taiwo Ayuni from Union Berlin, who had a good season in the Bundesliga, but in previous loan spells with Liverpool, he hasn't really done much, so we will see. They have signed two very experienced and proven Premier League players in Jesse Lingard and Dean Henderson, which should boost their survival chances. Nico Williams is a plus at wingback, and Brennan Johnson is a star in the making in this team. So I think that Nottingham Forest, in their very unique system, much like Sheffield United a couple of seasons ago, will likely lead them to staying in the Premier League. So 16 for Nottingham Forest. 15th, Brentford. I think that they will have a little bit of a second season syndrome, and they will get found out more by other teams. They have retained a lot of their key players, such as Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo. Thomas Frank is a very good possession-based manager, and they have added Mikkel Damsgaard from Sampdoria, who's one of the star men from Denmark in the last World Cup. Of course, they did lose Christian Eriksen to Man United, and that could be troubling for this team that really needs a lot of creativity. Their defense is very solid. They have added Ben Mee from Burnley. Christopher Adger's still there. Rico Henry is still there. Aaron Hickey has been added. So I think this team should be decent enough to stay in the division. 15th for Brentford. 14th, Brighton. I think Brighton is a very weird team to predict. Of course, they have a very good manager in Graham Potter and a lot of very unheralded talents in the Premier League. They do still have players like Neil Mopey, they've signed Mwepu, Caicedo, Tyrick Lamptey, Robert Sanchez, so this is a very solid team. One thing that Brighton has been over the years is a very solid defensive team. The main issue with them is scoring goals, and Dennis Undav from Union Saint-Gilloise from the Belgian league should help with that. I am unsure to what capacity, but hopefully enough to support Neil Mopey and Leandro Trossard in that department. The loss of Marco Correa is very challenging for this team, so hopefully a suitable replacement could be gotten there. It's a messy situation at the moment, but I think he is 100% sure that he will be leaving, whether it's Chelsea or whoever. So I think that Brighton should finish around the 14th mid-table area for this season. 13th, I have Leeds. The biggest story with Leeds this season is that how will they cope without Rafinha and Calvin Phillips? Um, they have signed a lot of people in the transfer market to subsidize this loss. We have Luis Sinisterra from Feyenoord, Mark Roca. We have some familiarity signings with their American manager Jesse Marsh, with Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson. So some very good players there, but the biggest issue with Leeds last season was not that their squad was lacking any talent, it's that they just couldn't get healthy. Patrick Bamford really missed a lot of time, so him being healthier should help this team bounce back from their disappointing season. Players like Junior Firpo and Llorente, their center back, were also gone for periods last season. But other than that, this team is really quality. We have Jack Harrison, Dan James, Clich, Ilian Melier, Luke Ayling, Stuart Dallas. This is a very good team. So I think around the mid-tables position, 13th for Leeds. 12, I have Wolves. One thing with Wolves, similar to Leeds, is that their attack was very much injured for most parts of the season. Of course, they have Raul Jimenez, Daniel Podence, and Pedro Neto, who barely played last season. Hwang Hee-chan is pretty okay. There's one thing that Wolves did prove last season is that they're defensively solid and that their manager Bruno Lage is a very good tactician. Of course, they still have their Portuguese spine to the team of Ruben Neves and Chao Moutinho and Jose Sa. Adama Traore is back from his loan to Barcelona. Connor Cody is still here. Johnny, their left wing back, is now healthy. Collins from Burnley has been brought in. So far, they're only signing this season. He's a pretty okay center back, so I think 12 for Wolves. 11th, Leicester. Now, this really depends on who else is leaving for Leicester. There are a lot of rumors with Wesley Fofana, James Maddison, and Yuri Tielemans. Of course, their captain, Kasper Schmeichel, has already left the club, so finding that replacement goalkeeper is a real priority for them right now. They didn't get Bernd Leno, he went to Fulham. I do predict at least two more of those star players to exit Leicester, which would actually warrant them a little bit lower of a placement in my prediction, but the presence of Jamie Vardy, Wilfred Ndidi, their still solid defense of Soyuncu, Justin, Ricardo Pereira, Harvey Barnes, Neonacho, and I think this is still an okay side. Brendan Rodgers is a very good manager. There's a lot of time in the transfer window still, so the replacements that they can get if these players do leave could be of real quality, so I'm putting them at a tentative 11th. I don't think that they will have any real European challenge this season. In 10th, I have Crystal Palace. The job that Patrick Vieira done with this team was amazing last year. Even with some of the difficulties they've had in midfield, they were still defensively solid enough for their whichever combination of attackers that they had on the day to really shine. Of course, they still have Wilfred Zaha, even with his never-ending transfer rumors. The triple strike partnership of Mateta, Edward, and Christian Benteke is pretty decent. Eberechi Eze and Michael Ole should be a little bit more healthy. They have signed Czech Doucouré from Lon to sort of solve their midfield woes, but I think they are still lacking some depth in that area. Mark Guehi is a very good center back, and they've also signed Sam Johnston from West Brom, who's proven to be a very good goalkeeper, even challenging for an England spot. I think the only area of weakness in this team is at fullback. I think they're still lacking there. I think this could be a pretty good season for Crystal Palace, so I'm predicting them to go 10th. Ninth, it's the Saudis of Newcastle. So I think that Newcastle are in line for a very good season with the big money signing of Sven Botman, a full season of Bruno Guimaraes. Nick Pope is now in goal. Also a full season of Kieran Trippier. Hopefully he is healthy for this season. Callum Wilson, Chris Wood, Alan Samoxamo. Joe Linton has become a very good box-to-box midfielder somehow. And with Eddie Howe at the helm, who somehow guided a relegation-bound Newcastle team to 11th. I think they can challenge for Europe, but for now I'm tempering my expectations and placing them in ninth. Eighth, so just missing out on European places. I have West Ham. So West Ham are a very good team. They have maintained a lot of their star players in Antonio, Declan Rice, Jared Bowen is still there, so this should be a very similar season to last one. They have secured Alphonse Areola permanently, and I think he will be taking over that starting spot from Lucas Fabianski, who's still pretty okay in his old age. They have signed Gianluca Scamacca from the Serie A, Sassuolo, who's proven to be a very good goal scorer, which is exactly what West Ham needs. Ogerd from Ligue 1 has come in to shore up the defense. I don't really know much about him. What I do know is that he will be injured for a couple of months or weeks before at the start of the season. Overall, this is a solid team. My only concern with them is some depth in midfield. I think they're a little bit light there, but there's still time in the transfer window, so hopefully they can address that. They should be in and around that last European spot, but I'm predicting them to go 8. So the team that's beating West Ham to 7th is Aston Villa. When Steven Gerrard took over from Dean Smith last season, he had this team firing. Seems to really figure out the best for players like Philippe Coutinho and Jacob Ramsey. Most of their core is intact of Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins. John McGinn should be healthier. They still have Martinez, Konsa, Tyrone Mings, Luka Dean, Matty Cash. Leon Bailey will look to bounce back after a disappointing season, and some of the additions that they've made are very much of high quality, like Boubacar Kamara from Marseille who made the Champions League last season, and Diego Carlos from Sevilla, who should help the defense a lot. So I'm predicting Aston Villa to go to the Conference League and finish in 7th. In 6, I think Man United. Of the teams that are left, I think that there is a clear gap between Man United and the other 5. I think they're looking into going into a rebuilding or transition period, especially with new manager Eric Ten Hag demanding a very particular system and a particular set of players who can do a lot of high intensity pressing type football. I just don't think that this current Man United squad is equipped for that yet. Cristiano Ronaldo is still a world class player, but he really doesn't fit this system. There are a lot of big names in this squad: Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane, David De Gea, Luke Shaw. They've also just recently signed Christian Eriksen and Martinez from Ajax, so time will tell if a lot of those players are up to what Eric Ten Hag is expecting. This squad does have a lot of deadwood players. And I don't think that they can realistically challenge for Champions League with a midfield of Fred and McTominay. I also have thoughts against Maguire. This will be a very messy season for Man United. In fifth, I have Chelsea. Now, this team has a lot of questions, especially since they've really made a mess of the transfer window. A lot of their main targets went to other teams, mainly Barcelona, but the players that they did get, Raheem Sterling and Kalidou Koulibaly, are still of great quality. I know a lot of Chelsea fans are starting to question Thomas Tuchel, so I don't really know if this season will be going good or bad, especially since they still have a lot of players of quality. Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Thiago Silva has aged like fine wine. Reece James is still here. A healthy Ben Chilwell is a very good player. Edward Mendy is a world-class goalkeeper, I will say it. There are questions in the midfield, especially since three of their main midfielders, namely Kovacic, N'Golo Kante, and Jorginho, are only on 1 year deals. So they do still need to address that. Marco Correa is rumored to be going to Chelsea, but there is a bit of a mess on that transfer. So I think he can be a very good addition to this team, but I think they will fall a bit short of Champions League and finish in fifth. But it will be a close battle with the team I predicted in fourth, who is Arsenal. Now, maybe this is the Arsenal fan in me speaking, but I really do think that this is the massive step that this project of a few years will be taking. Gabriel Jesus is really the perfect type of player of what Mikel Arteta wants, and he still fits the timeline of Bukayo Saka, new captain Martin Odegaard, Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, who's recently come back from loan, Aaron Ramsdale, Kieran Tierney if fit, but that's a big if. So they brought in Zinchenko. Other players such as Gabriel Martinelli, Emil Smith Rowe, a solid midfield of Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. If they can get Yuri Tillemans, that would just put it over the top for me, and that is surely Champions League football for Arsenal. But if they don't get him, I think that they should still be off quality to at least challenge for top 4 this season. There are still some questions on a lot of the players here, like Nicola Pepe or Rob Holding, Hector Bellerin, but I think that Arsenal will finish in fourth. So that means I have in third Tottenham. As much as I hate it as an Arsenal fan, I have to admit that Tottenham really have a world-class side. Of course, they have world-class players such as Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. Dejan Kulusevski really showed out at the latter portion of the season. Richarlison is a very big addition, and finally they have some attacking backups for Harry Kane. Ivan Perisic is a very good system signing. Bissouma adds some steel in that midfield. I do have a concern on their defense, but the trio of Longley, Dyer, and Romero should hold firm. And Lloris is still an okay goalkeeper at his age. They do have a lot of systemic options with players, especially in the fullback position, such as Reguilon, Doherty, Jed Spence, Emerson Royal, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and Rodrigo Bentancur are very good destroyers. And I think the biggest thing between Tottenham and Arsenal is that Antonio Conte is pretty much a world-class manager, a proven winner, and at the very least a top 3 manager in the Premier League. So Spurs will be finishing third, but there will still be a big gap between them and the top 2 this season. So who exactly do I have in the top two? Well, in second, I have Liverpool. So I have Man City winning the league again. So Liverpool really made a big change this summer with Darwin Nunez replacing Sadio Mane, who's gone to Bayern. It will be very interesting how this Liverpool team looks when they now have a goal-scoring striker instead of people like Roberto Firmino or Diogo Jota, whose value really comes from other areas of the game. Of course, they will now get a full season of Luis Diaz, who's shown a lot of flashes last season. They still have Mohamed Salah, the usual suspects of Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Matip. Ibrahima Konate was very solid for most of the season. Alisson, Fabinho. So there's not really a lot of changes in this team, just their attacking options. And I think that they will still push Man City to the title and they will finish in second. So winning the league this season, I don't think that this is a surprise. I have Man City. They've signed Erling Haaland for God's sake. um, I mean, what can I say? They have world-class players at every position at this point. Kevin De Bruyne is still here, your player of the year. Their defense is still solid. Cancelo, Diaz, Laporte, Stones, Walker, Ederson, Bernardo Silva. Calvin Phillips is a welcome addition into the midfield, backing up Rodri, Ilkay Gundogan, Jack Grealish, Riyad Mahrez, Julian Alvarez, a very good wonder kid. Now stepping into that Gabriel Jesus role of a winger striker hybrid. The only concern I have with Pep Guardiola's side is they need some depth in the fullback positions. They're very light at that area. Of course, they didn't want to pay over the odds for Marco Correa, so we will see who they bring in, but I think this will be a very comfortable road to the Premier League title for Man City. So that's the end of my predictions. I will flash my table on the screen right now. And hopefully this will bring me to FPL glory. I think this will be an interesting season with a lot of teams in transition periods and a lot of teams will be fighting to stay in the division. So I'm ready for the Premier League season. Come on, you Gunners.